MP for the UD says she has requested a meeting of the CCAD of Parliament. President of Friends St. Martin says he was very proud of what he's heard and seen at the youth debate. And first Vice President of Friends St. Martin congratulates the members of the Youth Parliament on their live debate. Those are the headlines for Tuesday, March the 23rd, 2021. Good evening, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie Van Putten. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And as usual, we have a full newscast prepared for you, so let's get started. In our first story, in news out of French St. Martin, First Vice President of the Executive Councils on Friends St. Martin, Valerie Damaso, who is in charge of culture, youth, and sport affairs, speaking at the live debate of the opening of the official debate on the Treaty of Concordia between the Youth Parliament of St. Martin and the junior members of the territory of St. Martin on the occasion of the anniversary of the 373rd Treaty of Concordia, which was held from March the 20th to March the 23rd. The first Vice President, in her opening remarks, welcomed the attendees and said that back in 2018, they decided to have both junior councils from both sides sit in, discuss, exchange, and challenge themselves on knowing what is behind the Treaty of Concordia and how do they see this treaty tomorrow.
Welcome each and every one of you to this live debate that we have on the Treaty of Concordia. In 2018, we have decided to have both junior councils from both sides sit in, discuss, exchange, as they do on a regular already, but challenge themselves on knowing what is behind of the Treaty of Concordia and how do they see this treaty tomorrow. Over the years, as youngsters, we have always been told that the youths are the future of tomorrow. I'm going to continue remaining that youth. I'm not getting no older. I want to say, however, that tomorrow starts and has already started, and it starts with you. I want to take this opportunity, like I said in 2018, when we first did this event and we spoke about the youths. I said in 2017, Monsieur le Président Daniel Gibbs has not only continued speaking about the youths of the future, but he took that chance upon this young French Quarter girl and have proposed me to be the first Vice President, and here I am standing before you today. So when you have people that believes in you, you actually first have to believe in yourself and have that will to go further. The challenge that is put before you, like I said, is to discuss about this Treaty of Concordia that you know is the only reason why, in a sense, that we're able to coexist, knowing that both of us have two different statuses. We all may see it differently, and we all want this coexistence to continue as long as possible. But we know the threats and so forth that is brought forth if we don't start to protect ours. The saying, I from here and I from here wouldn't just work. Two different status, two different way of functioning, and yet we want to function as one. So this is why the challenge has been brought forth again to each and every one of you for the last 3 years, and I'm looking forward to this debate. So I said no speech on my behalf. I'm going to stop now, and long live the Treaty of Concordia.
Meanwhile, in her closing remarks at the live debate, Prime Minister of Dutch St. Martin, the Honorable Sylvia Jacobs, told the attendees that the work of the youth councils and the leaders deserve a round of applause, as over the years, a lot of good work was started, and it is now for the youth to come together to deal with the many challenges. She congratulated them and said that they have been on this trajectory for the past 3 years.
Again, let me say then a wonderful and a heartfelt good afternoon to each of you young people here representing both territorial and youth parliaments of Dutch and French St. Martin. I think people who are hearing this, because we progress and now there's live streaming and more people are able to see what actually goes on a yearly basis. Some of the persons before me who spoke mentioned that these two councils meet regularly. They even join and they compete with other countries. I've seen that as well. But the work of the youth councils and their leaders, I want to have everyone in here give the leaders of these young people a big round of applause. Actually, I'm quite proud to say that in listening to some of your suggestions, I know one of them said, I think it was the young lady to my right, who I know has strong lineage also of, let's call it freedom fighters in the Lake family. Yes, the great-granddaughter, I believe, of Jose Lake.
Yeah, Jose Lake.
Jose Lake Sr.
And Junior.
And I heard about, and Junior, of course, the granddaughter of Junior. And then I heard a Schwazi's descendant is in here as well. And over the years, when I look at this document, I hear you speaking, it echoes exactly what Madame Damaso and myself, and also hearing the president over the last year that I've been prime minister, now that I have to also discuss with him. Back then, she was my colleague. Now he's my colleague, and I'm very happy that we continue the good relations. A lot of work was started, but with governments changing back and forth, the agenda not always being there. But back in 2015, I asked Connie to remind me when was the last youth forum. So there's a big congress where all of the youth that we had on from schools all over the Dutch side came together, and their suggestions in roundtable conference throughout the day form part of the changes in the youth policy, in education, etc. So it is not strange that we as government listen to the youth and take their suggestions forward where curriculum and education, they talked about all areas. So it's been since 2015 though. So your generation wouldn't even know, you were 5 years younger, wouldn't be aware. So it is now for us, you, to continue. I agree. We have been talking about this cooperative, President calls it Congress, I say platform, but whether you call it potato or potato, I think we have the same idea. We want to come together. We have many challenges with the fact that we are territory on one side and this quasi, what is it called? Constituent state within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, where we are equal but not quite equal partners. So while we do have some authorities more so than the collectivité, it is still very, very difficult, even with all the best will between our local governments, to get the necessary cooperation to be able to execute. So it will be a challenge, but not one that we think, as the young lady say, is impossible, because it is all about mindset. So I would like to congratulate you, because we have been on this trajectory for at least the last 3 years. Is it 3, Madame Damaso? Yes. At least 3 years. And this year, March 23rd, will finally mean what I think we had envisioned since 3 years ago. And being the starting point of cooperation and the place where we talk about being Dutch, being French, and being one. One island, one country, one destiny. So I look forward to you all being the voices of the youth. In fact, sharing it via your TikTok, your Snapchat, and all the other media, not only your little dances, maybe make a Treaty of Concordia dance, because even that has been done in the past, where poetry has been written by youth, by elderly, by middle-aged like myself, and we all have the same ideas. Yeah, I ain't young no more, I admit it. But I'm still young at heart, and as an educator, I heard Alex talking about he's not a teacher. That is still for me what I love to do most, and any opportunity to get feedback from you is a learning experience for us. And I just wanted to let you know that we hear you, we will definitely involve you, and continue the great cooperation that you have. Foster it even better with your peers, and I think we are well on our way to realizing what we started 3 years ago in establishing this Congress/platform whereby we come together as governments to jointly take decisions for all our people.
And President of Friends St. Martin, Mr. Daniel Gibbs, in his closing remarks, said that he was very proud of what he heard and what he's seen. But contrary to what was said, the start is not here. This is just a confirmation of what they are trying to do to go to the next step.
Sitting there and listening to you all, and I was very proud of what I've heard, very proud of what I've seen. I think, as Alex said just now, there's a start to everything. But contrary to what he said, the start is not here. This is just a confirmation of what we are trying to do to go to the next step. I heard we need ambition, we need political strong decision. I hear my vice president saying that one day some candidate went to look for some other candidates and decided that he was bringing a young generation in order to help him manage affairs. And that's what I call political decision, when we don't just say we do for the youth, we include the youth. And what we did here today all together is that we included the youth in our decision making. And what you said today is fruit to the report and to the work that we will be doing in the future. I'm very honored to be here today because what I've heard convinced me, and Alex knows what I'm talking about because he was in government at the time as director of cabinet when I was elected for the first time as deputy mayor in 2001. And in 2003, I once said on the radio, on the dot side, I think it was Eddie Williams radio, and he said, Mr. Gibbs, you have a thought on cooperation. And I've heard a remark of you stating that you don't understand the MOUs, but you had an idea. Remember that, Alex? And the idea was what we were talking just now with Prime Minister, the United Congress, French and Dutch. But when I was saying that, I wasn't to what I was going to hear today. We throw this rock in the lake, comment on dit les ondes? The ripple effects are coming back. Because when I said that at the time, probably some people said that he was crazy thinking these things. Why? Because we have two different governments. I heard you saying it. Difficult to manage on one side, difficult to manage on the other side because of the national governments, but we are still making it through. Yes, they have certain autonomy. Yes, we have maybe less autonomy, but enough to be able to cooperate, each one in their system. And if we can do so, and if we were Europe before Europe, because I heard a gentleman speaking before stating that we have to emphasize more what we as local government need to decide for our island. But we were Europe before Europe. 1648, the spirit of 1648, libre circulation des biens, des personnes et des marchandises, is Europe today. And 1648 was the treaty, is the treaty of French and Dutch St. Martin. So we were Europe before Europe. And in my mind, I said, well, if we were Europe before Europe and Europe has a Brussels, we can have our United Congress, French and Dutch. And that's where the spirit of this union between two institutions came up. And I said, well, with our different competencies, because it's a little bit more complicated than we think, because on the French side, we have the competencies that the Article 74 gives us, which was all those that you know about, except what we call in French les droits régaliens, which is health, justice, education, security, and army, and environment. Those we don't have. Those they have. Except certain of them. You see, each one have their own competencies. But when we decide for ourselves what we want as a future on this island, we have to make it known not only on a memorandum of understanding like we were doing every different years when the government changed or when a president changed, but in a Congress in which we will seal a deliberation that will bring the two executives of this island to decide which areas we want to cooperate in. We are an island that lives 95% of our economy based on tourism. I haven't heard this word this evening, but that was for a reason. Because before we go to tourism, we need to educate, right, Alex? We need to have a healthy island. I heard those two words. We need to have a certain amount of Friendship and alliance, I heard those words also, which means that we have to organize before we talk about the real issues. Tourism is one. Water is one. Electricity is one. And these issues, I think, are so important that we need to tackle them in an institution that will bring decision tomorrow to make this island take those decisions on a two vision and not only on one vision.
And SXM Daily News will feature more of the youths at the Youth Parliament debate in tomorrow's broadcast. And still to come, the island of Curacao will be going in lockdown once again. I'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Hi, I'm Switch.
And I'm Save.
And together we're here
to tell you about WIB, Switch, and Save mortgage offer.
Now at WIB, you can save and benefit from great specials when you decide
to bring your mortgage to WIB.
When you switch, WIB will offer you
payment of penalty fees up to 3 months interest,
payment of notary fees,
waive of bank closing fees,
and also the lowest interest rate.
Plus, you'll have the chance to win back 1 year of interest payment.
Visit any of WIB's mortgage specialists and benefit from WIB's Switch and
Hey, that's my part. And Save mortgage offer.
WIB, your partner in progress.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie Van Putten. And as we continue now in more news, in news out of Willemstad, Curacao, there will be yet another lockdown in Curacao for the next 2 weeks. The measures will take effect from tomorrow, Wednesday, the 24th of March. Everyone should be able to stay indoors to have as little contact with others as possible, particularly due to the rapid spread of the British variety of COVID-19. The starting point again becomes stay at home. The curfew remains the same, and everyone can do the vital shopping between the hours of 4:30 in the morning and 9 p.m. The license plate of the day will also return, and no one will be allowed on the roads on Sundays. Restaurants and trukipangs, which is the barbecue stands, will only be open for deliveries. And according to the release, more details will be provided soon. And now in other news, Member of Parliament for the United Democrats, Mrs. Sarah Westcott Williams, speaking about the CCAD, says that she has requested a meeting of the Constitutional Affairs and Decolonization Committee of Parliament, and says that she is convinced that the route to the United Nations via the Co-Harris Law Group petition is but a way to circumvent the right to the people of St. Martin for their opinion. And the longer the government pussyfoots around the division that exists in the coalition on the topic of the human petition, the more detrimental it gets for the people of St. Martin. The UD leader expounded further.
I have requested a meeting of the Constitutional Affairs and Decolonization Committee of Parliament because I am convinced that the route to the United Nations via the Co-Harris Law Group petition is but a way to circumvent the route to the people of St. Martin for their opinion. And the longer the government pussyfoots around the division that exists in the coalition on the topic of the UN petition, the more detrimental it gets for the people of St. Martin. By now, I guess, the Prime Minister should have received the Kingdom Council of States advice on the draft Coho Kingdom Law. And while this advice should be treated with confidentiality, I highly doubt that the St. Martin government and its coalition MPs in Parliament will not discuss this advice ahead of the Kingdom government drafting its reaction to the Council of State's advice. But even if this advice from the Council of State, the Raad van State, gives the Caribbean countries some latitude with their advice, the ball will remain in the court of the kingdom government and thus in the court of the Netherlands. The government of St. Martin, therefore, has to address the path chosen by a majority in Parliament to confront the Netherlands at this crucial time in the negotiations. Not only that, but the entire country is being dragged into a confrontation we did not ask for. In my opinion, the Prime Minister of St. Martin skillfully dodged the issue of the divide between a majority in Parliament and the government as it relates to the agreement with the Netherlands and the demand by State Secretary Knops to receive reconfirmation of the government and Parliament for the agreed upon country package and the Coho entity, whether the Coho law is adjusted or not. To appease some, the government of St. Martin has jumped on the decolonization bandwagon and claims it only recently came to realize that our current autonomy is flawed. This autonomy is what we, or better said, they, opted for in 1954. And with that, the Dutch kingdom skillfully put Article 73 of the UN Charter behind it, skepticism notwithstanding. And we, so St. Martin, reaffirmed that status in 2000 using our right to self-determination. What has transpired now is that a majority in Parliament feels that the Charter clauses, such as the office of governor, redress by the kingdom government, a deficit kingdom government, international loan approval, etc., can be rectified or eliminated if we shame the kingdom and claim we are still treated as a colony. Because, as they argue, self-government is boss in own house, and that we are not. They argue. The proponents of this decolonization drive thus argue that they want to be in the charter of the kingdom, but not bound by all of the rules.
And turning now to this COVID vaccine story, on Monday, March 22nd, exactly 1 month after the vaccination campaign started on St. Martin, 10,000 persons have registered to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. This group consists of roughly 900 medical frontline workers, 3,000 persons of 60 years or older, 2,200 persons with underlying medical conditions, and the remaining 3,900 people were essential workers and persons aged 18 to 59 without underlying medical conditions. Currently, only the first 3 priority risk groups are being called forward to receive their vaccine, though the Vaccine Management Team, the VMT, expects to continue to the final 2 groups soon. The aim is still to vaccinate at least 70% of the population before the start of the hurricane season. Additionally, the VMT would like to keep the numbers low to prevent another outbreak of active cases, as is currently the case on Curaçao and Bonaire. This is due to the more contagious UK variant, from which we know has already been found on St. Martin. For the VMT to reach herd immunity and prevent the virus from spreading, more registrations are needed, so the vaccination rate can be upscaled accordingly. For those who are still doubtful, the VMT is planning different outreach activities to provide information and assistance with the registration process. This service is currently also provided at the Coal Bay and Dutch Quarter Community Help Desk between the hours of 9:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. on weekdays. Now, turning to our weather forecast for March 23rd, 2021. The Atlantic high pressure system is to generate light to gentle winds across the region. Additionally, a low-level trough will increase the probability of showers during this forecast period. Sea conditions are subsiding. Waves are forecast to peak up to 6 feet during this forecast period. So the outlook through Thursday midday, fair to partly cloudy with a few brief showers possible. Now, let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, election winners on the island of Curacao sign agreement. I'll have the details to that story when SXM Daily News returns.
The innovative Banco Matico contactless smart card. Your Banco Matico smart card is now equipped with a contactless feature for payments, so get ready to tap and go. Contactless payments are fast, easy, secure, and accepted worldwide at all Maestro-enabled contactless terminals. Tap for transactions equivalent to or less than 100 NAF, or the US dollar equivalent. You will receive notifications via email anytime you tap. Tap, tap, and pay fast with WIB. For more information, visit our website at wib-bank.net. Tap and go with your partner in progress.
Welcome back, viewers. This is SXM Daily News. NVGEBE is informing the general public that connections will take place for the areas of Front Street, Back Street, Fort William, and Cahill during the week of March 22nd to March the 26th, 2021. You are asked to take note of the areas mentioned and make sure and take every effort to have your bill or your bills paid and settled on time. GEBE are open from 7:45 a.m. to 3 p.m. and they may be reached on the following numbers: 546-1112, 546-1113, 546-1100, or 546-1160, or via the email address customercare@nvgebe.com. And as we end this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening, this item out of the island of Curacao, the two biggest winners of the election, Movimiento Futuro Curaçao, MFK, and Partido Nacional de Pueblo, PNP, have already signed a declaration of willingness to form a new government. This is evident from a document that was signed yesterday between the party leaders and chairman together. MFK with 9 seats and PNP with 4 seats have a total of 13 seats and counted for a large majority in parliament. The Declaration of Willingness states that the parties are willing to cooperate in order to form the next coalition government of Curacao for the period of 2021 to 2025 to realize a thorough development of its citizens based on transparency, integrity, decency, hope, respect, norms, and values with God's word in our standard. The MFK leadership indicated that immediately after the election results, talks started between their party and the PNP, and that soon became clear that we are on the same page. That is why they immediately signed a declaration of willingness to form a government. The Declaration of Willingness does not exclude the possibility that this basis will be broadened even further. And with that, viewers, we've come to the end of this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening. I am Valerie von Putten, thanking you so much for joining me this evening. And just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you so much for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.